Among the tax evaders and the smugglers who have found a safe haven in the Jewish state is a particularly nasty subset of criminals who for some reason are allowed to live freely without fear of reprisal from their hideous actions. Nevertheless, there is a certain subsection of people that this is indeed a paradise. Israel is a haven for all kinds of criminals who exploit Judaism and the law of the return to flee justice.
So like a curious traveler on a quest, we embark upon a journey of information. Stay with us for a ride into knowledge.
Aliyah is a Hebrew term that refers to the immigration of Jews from the dispersion of the Jewish people beyond Israel in biblical times, back to the land of Israel. It is often described as the act of going up, symbolizing a return to the Jewish homeland, and it is a fundamental concept in Zionism. The term also signifies a personal and significant journey back to Israel, emphasizing the importance of the return in Jewish identity and tradition. It's also referred to as that law of return. That's because it is an Israeli law. It was passed on the 5th of July in 1950, the date chosen so that it would coincide with the anniversary of the death of the Zionist visionary Theodor Herzl. It declared every Jew has the right to come to this country as an olah, that's an immigrant. It gives Jewish people with one or more Jewish grandparent and their spouses the right to relocate to Israel and acquire Israeli citizenship. In the law of return, the State of Israel gave effect to the Zionist movement's aim for the establishment of Israel as a Jewish state. In 1970, the right of entry and settlement was extended to people with at least one Jewish grandparent, and a person who is married to a Jew, whether or not they are considered Jewish under Orthodox interpretations of Jewish law. On the day of arrival in Israel, a person who enters Israel under the law of return as an immigrant would receive a certificate confirming their status. The person then has 3 months to decide whether they wish to become a citizen, and they can renounce their prior citizenship during this time. The right of that immigrant certificate may be denied if the person is engaged in anti-Semitic activity, is a hazard to the public health or security of the state, or has a criminal past that may endanger public welfare. As well, Jews who have converted to another religion are not eligible to immigrate under the law of return, even though they're still Jews. And since 2005, the right does not apply to residents of the West Bank or the Gaza Strip due to the citizenship and entry into Israel law. Now, this law of return has created a serious problem. From 2014 to 2020, at least 60 pedophiles fled to Israel, though given a lack of resources, the actual number is likely much higher. There appears to be elements of the Jewish community in the United States that are willing to help pedophiles escape. An advocates group says that about 100 rabbis, teachers, and other figures who have been accused, charged, or convicted of sexual abuse overseas have already found refuge in Israel. Even if they're convicted offenders, there is no mechanism in place in Israel to monitor their movements or alert the public. An Israeli advocate says there are some prosecutors in the United States who don't even bother requesting extradition from Israel for sex abuse offenders because, in their experience, Israel won't do it. There's a danger that Israel is becoming a safe haven for pedophiles and alleged perpetrators, said a survivor of child abuse. Of course, any criminal can flee to another country, but it's about getting the visa to remain there. Because Israel welcomes all Jews, they're protected from that perspective. A registered sex offender under supervision in their home country will not have that supervision transferred to Israel when they receive citizenship. Israel is a particularly attractive destination for sex offenders because the law of return allows all Jews to receive citizenship in a very short period of time. In Israel, people who want to work in school and with children are often asked to provide a document from the police that states that the person is a citizen of good standing who does not pose a risk to children's welfare. But because the list only relates convictions in Israel, someone who has been convicted of sex crimes in another country could obtain this document in Israel, clearing them to work with children. A notable case involves Thomas Zeron, the former head of Mexico's Criminal Investigation Agency, who is wanted for his role in the 2014 disappearance of 43 students and allegations of torture. Since fleeing to Israel in 2019, Zeron has lived comfortably in Tel Aviv. Reports indicate that Israel is unlikely to extradite him, citing procedural errors and Mexico's support for UN inquiries into Israel's war crimes. In Israel, tens of thousands of pedophiles operate on a daily basis without any problem. They are not deterred by the police and certainly not deterred by the ruling that comes from the hands of judges in various courts. Another incident is noted where one particular pedophile was let off by the courts without punishment, despite evidence of thousands of child porn images found on his computer, as the court stated that it would harm his career. Many sex offenders find refuge in ultra-Orthodox settlements in the West Bank. Over 700,000 Israelite settlers reside in these areas, occupying Palestinian lands in 150 government-supported settlements, which are deemed illegal under international law. Government funding also extends to the unauthorized outpost, allowing convicted offenders to live with minimal interference. It is deeply concerning that 1/3 of prisoners convicted of sexual offenses have declined to participate in mandatory rehabilitation programs, and 75% were released early, not serving their full sentences. Additionally, nearly 90% of sexual offense cases involving Israeli army officials were initially opened but subsequently closed without charges. Another offender was convicted in the United States on 3 counts of child abuse and violated his terms of parole in order to flee to Israel under a false identity. In Israel, he is living a carefree, happy life. And then there's the one woman who is wanted in Australia for no less than 74 counts of sexual abuse and assault and rape involving 8 of the girls at the ultra-Orthodox school in Melbourne, where she was the principal. After fleeing to Israel in 2008, she was arrested, but managed to dodge a trial on the grounds of mental incompetence. And only in February of 2018, 10 years later, was she rearrested on suspicion of pretending to be mentally ill in order to avoid extradition. Her rearrest was a result of undercover work that documented her leading a normative life despite her claims of mental incapacity. But a short time later, a team of expert psychiatrists determined that the 54-year-old was indeed an imposter and, contrary to her claim, was certainly fit to stand trial. That should have been at the end of it, but Israeli law enforcement agencies seem to be doing everything in their power to prevent her facing justice. And the fact is that in September of 2019, Jerusalem District Court ordered a new panel of experts to determine once again whether she was qualified to stand trial. And in January 2020, a new committee once again determined that she was indeed completely mental fit to stand trial. Meanwhile, Australia can keep waiting for her extradition, and her victims can keep waiting for justice. Now, incidentally, Israel's health minister is the subject of an ongoing criminal investigation over suspicions that he used his position to help her. And while the legal shenanigans continue, she stays put in the wonderland for the wicked. Now, this is perhaps a paradise lost to those who live there. But to the worst people in the world, it's a friendly haven from the law where you can leave your victims in your wake as if they mean nothing. Just more food for thought.
Thanks for watching this and all our videos. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until we meet again, stay curious, fellow travelers, and have a great day.